Hi everyone, thanks for tuning this episode of Nick Egan Times. On this episode, we have an incredible guest. We have Chrystee Pharris. Chrystee is a fantastic US actress who has had a sensational career to date. Chrystee is best known for a role as Simone Russell on NBC's daytime soap opera Passions. Chrystee thereafter went on to further a career on the hit show Scrubs as JD's girlfriend Kylie. Currently, Chrystee can be seen on the hit series Craig Ross Jr.'s Monogamy and reoccurring on season 3 of Goliath, which are both now available on Amazon Prime. Chrystee is also executive producing Mercer Island. Welcome to the multi-talented Chrystee, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yay, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. How's it all been going over there?
Everything is lovely. We just celebrated today, this week today, Juneteenth, which is the celebration of the Emancipation Proclamation. Sorry, brain is not working fast enough. Of slaves being freed. And so I've had the last couple of days a lot of fun.
That's incredible. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And when the pandemic hit, how has that affected you, with your career, personally and professionally?
It's interesting. As soon as the pandemic happened, because I am a working actor, I live off my acting. And I remember thinking, whoa, what are we going to do? Because we can't meet in person. And what it did, it actually gave me an opportunity to slow down and to try new things. And so what I started doing was taking voiceover classes. I already do voiceovers a lot. I do a lot of different TV shows and movies. We do the extras in the background. So I've been doing that for 15 years. But I started to learn other parts of the business, because there's like almost 13 different voiceover type of jobs that I didn't even know of. So I built this thing right here that you see. I built a booth. And what I did was started learning how to do voiceover. So I stayed a working actor. I just chose another genre. And then I also started directing. So for me, the pandemic was a blessing for me because it showed me that I could do more than just being an on-camera actor. So I was kind of grateful for the slowdown, although I was pretty sad for all of the friends and family who had passed away due to COVID.
Yeah, that's great insights, and that's incredible that you've been able to adapt and move your career and maneuver it into different channels or avenues, I guess. So, yeah, that's
Right.
sensational. All right, let's just jump straight into it. Take us back to how it all began for you, your family, and what it was like growing up. I believe you're from Ohio.
I'm originally from Las Vegas. I was born and raised in Vegas, but I spent a lot of time in Middletown, Ohio. And for some reason, somebody decided they wanted to post my Wikipedia and they put on there that I was from Ohio. But I do claim Ohio because my family is from there, like all of my relatives. So yeah, a little combination of that in Vegas at the same time.
Yeah, my family lives in Cincinnati, so I go to Ohio quite often.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So my family's in a place called Middletown, in between Cincinnati and Dayton. It's a
Wow.
little town. So maybe 40 minutes away from Cincinnati.
Wow, I'll have to go check it out. I'm going over there in a month, so yeah, I'll definitely go check it out. Cool.
Absolutely.
All right, and tell me, there's been obviously a lot of highlights in your career. What's been some of the best experiences and your fondest memories so far that you can share?
I mean, I've had so many great experiences from, challenging myself. When I have auditions, I would challenge myself to set a new goal. Like when I go into this audition, if I mess up, do I have the guts to start again? There's things like that too. When I had my passions audition, where I messed up in all three of my auditions, and yet I still got the role. And so it was a good reminder that no matter, no matter what's meant to be yours will be yours, and no one can take it away. And then just having the experience of like some of the roles and the characters, like Monogamy, the new show that I'm on, Craig Ross Jr.'s Monogamy. This last season was phenomenal because I had to do this scene that I was like, wait, Craig, you want me to do what? Like, you want me to do this masturbation scene? Like, what do you like? I don't do that. Like, what is, wait, what? Um, but there were so many great things. First of all, we wanted to stay safe during COVID, but we still had to show this intimate scene between these two people. So we had to show something. So that's why they were like, well, without you guys touching each other, you can do this. Then I was so caught up in my head as an actor, worried like, oh my God, am I going to look crazy? Are people going to talk bad about me? Like, you know, you're thinking of all these things, you know, if my dad was alive, what would he say if he saw this? But then when it aired, so many young women, or just women in general, were like, I can so relate to what she's gone through, what my character's name is Deandra. And it made me say, wow, you really have to trust your director sometime, a lot of times. Hopefully you can trust your director because they really should look out for you. But he saw a vision in this character and this scene that was beyond just my self-consciousness of, you know, oh my God, am I going to look crazy? Because a lot of women were healed by watching this, you know, because my character was abused, and she was able to use this particular scene to get through that hurt. And a lot of women could relate to it. And some of them seemed like that they might not have even admitted that they had been abused before until after they had seen this scene. So, so there's a lot of incredible moments. You know, there was a time when I was on Sister Sister, and I remember thinking, oh my God, they're gonna fire me. Like, I'm so horrible. And then they ended up, Susan DePass brought me in to a meeting to want to see about representation. So a lot of times as an actor, we're in our heads over things that we have no control over and we don't even know. So you just have to really be present and in the moment.
Yeah, that's great insight. Thanks for sharing. With learning lines, obviously a professional, how harder was it, or hard initially when you first started out to where you are now? Like, how easy is it to actually learn lines?
Well, I feel like through the 20 years that I've been doing that, my technique changes a lot. Before, it was just about learning the lines. As I've gotten older and more relaxed in it, it's about making a connection to the words into the body, to where memorizing the lines is not as difficult, because it's about what is the subtext behind what I'm saying, as opposed to, oh my God, I got to get these lines. I am dyslexic though, so words that don't have pictures are very hard for me to remember. So I can get, you know, is and was and time and or, and those type of words I tend to mess up sometimes. So that part of it makes it a little bit more difficult. But one of the techniques I've learned, if you have to learn something quickly, if you take the first letter of each word and put it in a big, huge box, you know, paragraph or whatever, your brain will automatically know what it is based off of that. So if the word is, I need to go to the store, you would put I, N, T, G, T, S. And your brain will automatically know, I need to go to the store. And that's another technique that you can use as a fast way of learning your lines, and then making sure that you go back and understand what you're saying and put it in your body and really convey what this character is trying to say.
Yeah, that's great advice. And you know, you're inspirational being dyslexic as well. You know, that wouldn't be easy. Obviously, that'd be challenging at times. So yeah, that's incredible. You're an incredible human being for, you know, doing everything you're doing.
Thank you. And the thing is that when you were asking, just because I just realized, I don't know if I answered the question, but um, it gets harder when you're not using your muscles. So when I was on Passions, when I first started on Passions, that I was on for 3 years, you know, like memorizing the lines was kind of difficult. But then as I started doing it every single day, literally every single day, it got easier. And so when I took a break, you know, and then now trying to memorize lines when you take a break, it's like, oh, goodness gracious, I need to use this brain, you know, this muscle. So, you know, it's kind of like getting on a bike, and, you know, if you haven't been on a bike for a while, if you haven't worked out in a while, you know, it's a little tough to get those push-ups in, but then all of a sudden you go from 2 push-ups to 10 to 20 to 50, you know, to 50. So you really have to use that muscle on an ongoing basis. Otherwise, it starts to deteriorate, and then you got to build it back up again. And then you got to work through your self-esteem, because you're like, oh my God, I can't memorize these lines anymore. Am I getting old? Can I do this? Am I any good? And when you're in your head, it is so hard to be a really good actor and convey what you need to convey, because you're too busy thinking about your lines. And that's what separates a person who's going to book the job versus somebody who's really good. Somebody could be an amazing actor, but if they're so caught up in the lines because they can't get off book, you know, memorize their lines, they're never going to be a good actor. And then you have this actor who's a pro at memorizing their lines, but they're not a good actor, but they end up getting the role because they were able to present it in that room. So it's a challenge. You really have to work on your craft consistently. If you take a break, sometimes it becomes a disservice to you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially just building that momentum. It's all about momentum, just keeping it going. And then, yeah, as you said, it's just muscle and it just keeps going and going.
Exactly.
What was it like working on Passions and even Scrubs? Like, obviously, they're two shows that everybody knows, you know, were extremely popular. Yeah, tell me about that. What was it like being on set? And what was that experience like for both of them?
I mean, I was in heaven. I was working my dream job. You know, it was like, when I booked Passions, I booked 3 things in the same day. I booked Passions, I booked a pilot for Warner Brothers before it became the CW, which you guys don't have on your side. But and then I booked a commercial all in the same day. But I had to turn the other 2 down just so that I could do Passions. And so I chose that one over the other job. And I just was the happiest person on set every day. I mean, I remember people saying, oh my God, you are too happy. It is 6:30 in the morning. I need you to take it down a notch. But I was always so excited to be working every single day, because this is what I always wanted in my life. Well, you know, I knew at 4 years old, I wanted to be an actor. So I never took it for granted. And then, you know, when I was working on, and by the way, every single one of the actors that were on Passions that I had the opportunity to interact with, they became dear friends, and I'm still friends with a lot of them to this day. Thank God for Facebook and stuff like that, because you get to keep in contact. But when I worked on Scrubs, it was different because I got a chance to be funny and work on these, you know, a character that got to be silly and goofy. And then, of course, watching Zach Braff and Donald Faison, you know, watch them do what they do. They were brilliant at it. And so it was great to be able to contribute to that and be able to add extra to it as well. So yeah, just the experience of being on set. I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 shows that I've ever been on that I just was miserable on. And I remember the 2, I just was like, oh my God. And both of those shows, the 2 women were maybe kind of petty, maybe would be the word, or, you know, just, oh, you have on my outfit. Or one girl made me take my clothes off, change my clothes, because she thought I was too pretty. and that I look prettier than her.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And I'm just a guest on her show and she's a series regular. And I'm thinking to myself, you are making 3 times the amount or twice the amount of money that I'm making on this. Why would you care about what I'm wearing? You know what I mean? Those are the only 2 projects that I was on that I was like, oh, this is awful. But they were also miserable too. Everybody on those shows were pretty miserable. And it only lasted 1 season, both of those shows. So, but for the most part, I'm usually pretty freaking excited and happy. And I usually set the tone. Like I go in so focused and give it my all that a lot of people are like, you're just a joy to work with. And I think the other thing is that for a lot of people, I think actors should do this more often. When you're a series regular, you should be grateful and thank the people who work for you, because none of the stuff would be done if your crew wasn't dedicating their time. They're usually there before we get there and they're there after we get there. So every show that I've worked on where I was a series regular, I always gave the crew gifts. You know, they're not expensive gifts. They're nothing crazy, but just a little thank you to just show the gratitude of, I appreciate you being here and making me look good. So.
Wow, that's amazing. That's great advice too. Like the insights into it. Wow, that's incredible. You did some ADR for Spider-Man, X-Men, and Legion. Tell me about that. What that experiences were like.
Yeah, I mean, I just worked on a new show today, a new pilot. You know, I do Winning Time that just came out on HBO, you know, SVU, and let's see, Chicago PD and Black Lightning. I mean, all these different shows. It's a lot of fun. I mean, you really have to be able to be a person who can improv. You have to be able to listen. But it is a blessing, because when things are slow for on camera, because a lot of people don't realize the industry changes every 10 years. You know, 1 minute it's young kids are hot. The next minute a minority could be hot. You know, Black people are hot, Asian people are hot, Latino people are hot, older people are hot, young people are hot. And then you might not work because you don't fit into that genre. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
You know, and then it was reality shows were hot. And then it's social media people are hot, influencers. And so when things can be slow, you always want to find multiple streams of income. You don't want to just stick with one thing. You want to be able to produce or write or direct or do voiceovers or, you know, blah, 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 produce. And doing the voiceover stuff that I do, like I did the new Spider-Man movie that just came out. And of course I did Into the Universe. Being able to go in and make the movie better and fuller, because basically what we do is we make the people in the background, like if there's a party scene, we go in and fill in those voices so that it doesn't sound like it's dead. You know, you have to fill it in. And it's just a lot of fun, especially when you see a show that's like gets an Emmy or, you know, win some type of award, or it's a hit show. Like right now, Winning Time is like, you know, one of their #1 shows. And I'm like, I'm a part of that show. I did every episode. You might not see me, but you will hear me in the background, you know? So it's awesome to be able to, you know, say, hey, I'm a part of something. And you don't always have to be the star. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. You don't always have to be the star. You know, you can be in the background and that's okay.
That's so cool. That is so cool. Tell me, first time seeing yourself on television, what was the emotions and the feeling like? Like just going, wow, that's me on television. The whole, like, for example, United States can see potentially me on TV now. What was the emotions and feelings like?
Oh my God, I was the happiest person in the world. You know what I mean? And so was my family. I mean, everybody called me. All my cousins, my aunts. Seeing my grandmother, my grandmother was dying of cancer at the time, breast cancer. And I went to surprise her at the hospital. I flew to Atlanta to see her. And when I walked in the door, her doctors and nurses, everybody was in there. And she was watching my show. She was watching Passions. And when I walked in, I was on TV. And so she was, so I'm like, hi, Grandma. And she was like, oh my God, that's my grandbaby right there. Look, that's her. And that was a moment that was priceless. Sometimes it's not always about how I'm feeling. Sometimes it's about the reactions of other people and how proud my family is, or my friends, or, family, friends, people who knew my parents, and to see how proud they are is priceless. It's more, now I like when I'm on TV, it's like, okay, I don't call people anymore and say, hey, I'm on TV this week. I don't do that anymore. But when I get fans from around the world who hit me up on my social media that are like, hey, I just watched Steps of Faith and it really touched my heart and it made me cry. And when you have moments like that, it's priceless. And it makes me realize, why I do what I do, especially in moments when you start to feel like, oh my God, why do I do this? Why did I pick this career? Oh God, I suck. And then somebody will hit you up and go, oh my God, I loved you and such and such. And I'm like, okay, maybe I am kind of good. Okay, I'm supposed to be in this. All right. I'm not going to give up yet,
Well, that's tremendous. I'm interviewing for the first time, but I'm even proud of you. Like, it's incredible, your career.
Thank you.
Oh, that's too funny. What's been the best advice you've received in your career?
Man, so many things. Steve Harvey, which I'm sure he'll never remember me because he doesn't remember anybody. But I just remember Steve Harvey telling me, he told me to leave this part. He didn't tell me to leave. He basically was like, don't be fake. Don't run around here smiling up in people's faces and trying to get a job. He's like, you don't see me doing that, running around here smiling up at people's faces. And I didn't understand what he meant. And we were at a function. And I remember, I think I was being a little fake because I was trying to get everybody to like me. I just moved here and I was very young. And I just booked a couple of shows like Mauritian Sister and Steve Harvey show and all these shows. But I was trying to be this series regular, but I was being a little fake. You know what I mean? You don't recognize it, until somebody calls it out. And I remember being a little offended, but later I watched another girl do the same exact thing that I was doing because we both had moved here exactly the same week. We moved here exactly the same week. And I remember Jamie Foxx and Chris Rock and all of them looking at her like, oh God, here we go, as opposed to just having a regular conversation. And because he said that, and then I saw her and I watched the way everybody was looking at her, it made me say, don't talk about anything that you don't know anything about. If you have something meaningful to say, then go up and say that to the person. Because that's how people remember you and want to do things for you, as opposed to looking desperate and you're trying to get a job and you're like, hey, why don't we keep in contact? You know what I mean? And then they're just like, nah, let me give you my assistant's number. But if you're having a genuine conversation with somebody, it's like, if you see Steven Spielberg, don't talk about a movie that you've never seen. Oh my God, I love Schindler's List, but you've never watched it. You know what I'm saying? You want to talk about something, hey, I saw Amistad and that was a really good movie, or oh my God, E.T., like it had such an influence on my life and blah, blah, blah. If you're saying stuff like that, people are going to remember you a lot more because it's a real conversation. And I think that was probably the best advice he could have given me. I was offended at first when he said it to me, but I understood later. And now when I see somebody I only speak when I have something to say and something real to say. And because you know the difference when celebrities, because people do it all the time, even they do it to me, where you could tell people are being desperate. They want to be your friend. They want to, and they're trying too hard. And it's like, no, you're gonna become a bugaboo. You know what I mean? I don't want that in my life. I want real people like, hey, Chrystee, hey, let's go hang out, blah, blah, blah. So I think you get the point. But that was the best advice. And I think that goes with any career. You just want to be real with people and not be desperate.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And your authenticity and how genuine you are, it really shines through. So I completely understand with what you're saying, relate to it. What would be the best advice you would give someone young, being an inspiration yourself, to younger women coming into the industry, or any actor for that matter, coming in? What advice would you give them?
Being an actor,
Yeah,
get
yeah,
into the
yeah.
business. The first thing that I would say is that you got to trust your gut. Everybody's going to have an opinion on what you should and should not do. What worked for them might not work for you, you know what I mean? Or vice versa. I had so many people try to tell me, don't do this, don't do that. That's a waste of time. Don't say this to this person. Don't do this. And every time my instinct would say, you're going to do it anyway. And it would always work out for me. And then they would look surprised. And then they would want to jump on the bandwagon with me. Oh, well, can I? No, you can't. You told me not to do it. You discouraged me. You got me in my head. You know what I mean? It took me a second to get out of my head to actually do it. I mean, I fired some management teams because they were like, yeah, those people, those agents wouldn't see you because you're not famous enough. And then I would do it on my own. And then they were like, oh my God, we can't meet with you. And then the management team would want to be in the meeting with me. And I'd be like, no. So you always have to trust your own instinct and your gut. Always seek wisdom. But at the end of the day, trust your gut and be okay with the decision that you made, because there were some times I went against my own instinct and listened to my management team, and then things fell through. It didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. So that would be the first thing that I would say. The second thing I would say is to live at the bare minimum. If you decide to, especially if you move to LA, Hollywood, or anything like that, you know, don't get the expensive car, don't get the big old huge place, you know, where you're spending $3,000 on rent. You want to live at the bare minimum because you want your focus to be 100% on acting. A lot of my friends who moved here at the same time, they never made it as an actor because they always had to work a job. And so when auditions would come up, they couldn't really give it 100% because they had to pay bills. So you want to keep your bills at the bare minimum. I have so many different advice. Like, I'm like, okay, let me think of one more. Because I have like 20,000 of them I can give. I could probably do this all day long. The other thing is when you're looking for management teams or agents, listen, the reason why my agents always worked for me or my management team worked for me was because I was always out there hustling. No one ever worked harder than me. Half of those shows that I have on my resume, I booked on my own. I would say actually more than half. I would say 80% of most of the stuff I have on there is from my own relationships that I built.
Wow.
Yes. So my team always had to work hard because they knew I could leave them at any time, because I didn't need them, but you do need them because they're the ones that are going to get the bigger stuff for you. Like my team got me Passions, and my team got me Goliath with Billy Bob Thornton. I wasn't getting those shows on my own. So you want to make sure that you are working harder than your agent, and then that is going to make them work harder for you, if that makes sense. But never rely on them because they have like 20,000 clients. And unless you're their big number making the most money for them, they're not going to sometimes they might not pay that much attention, but you can make them pay attention if you're bringing in work. So yeah, that'll be my 3, but I probably have about 10,000 of them. I could sit here all day and give you advice. Like every time you get somebody's business card, you want to contact them the next day. If you don't contact them the next day, the juice and the spark is gone. Because if you contact them 2 weeks later, they're like, who, when, where, what? Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, I don't really have time. That's another advice. So you want to contact them the next day, and, you know, always drop some type of words of wisdom that they gave you to make them go, oh my God, oh yeah, she really did listen. Okay. You know what I mean? And then even if they don't meet up with you, it's okay. Just stay in contact with them at least every 3 months. And then you can say, hey, just so you know, that wasn't that you gave me 3 months ago or half a year ago or a year ago. I'm still using it to this day. So that way, when you do need something from them, they're more apt to do it for you, as opposed to you contacted them once last year. They haven't heard from you. Now you found out that they're working on a big, huge project. Now you contact them and they're like, I haven't heard from you in a whole entire year. And now you want me to do something for you? I don't think so. You want to stay in constant contact with people.
Wow, that's incredible advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's sensational. You might even have another career path too.
Well, I do teach a business of acting class, and all of the students that I've worked with over the last couple of years have all booked their first show in the first 4 to 6 months. You know, either got an agent or booked their show. And when I say booked a show, I'm talking like speaking lines on an actual TV show or, you know, movie. Wow. Or something. So there is a formula that getting in this business is not as difficult as you think. It's just a formula and a tool. And once you understand the formula and the tool, you'll always stay consistently working, which is why I work as much as I do. And I figured out a new way, which is why I built this sucker right here. I was like, okay, what are we going to do during the pandemic? Who's still working? Actors who are doing voiceovers. Let's get to it, you know?
Well, you're amazing. That's incredible. What are your passions and hobbies aside? Obviously, you're very focused and locked in with your career. What do you like to do if you ever get downtime? Like, what are your passions and hobbies?
Strangely enough, I love teaching the business of acting. I know that's crazy. That's still the business. I love working with actors and helping them through that. I also love collecting Pandora charms, which is so crazy because I love traveling around the world, and I only buy the ones that are destination specific. So like, for instance, I'm going to Egypt in August and Morocco in August. And so of course I'm going to get Pandora charms that are specific to Egypt and Morocco. But I have like, let's see, 18 countries and 30 something cities around the world. So that's another one of my passions. And I love playing cards. There's something out here that's called spades. That's in the African-American community. I'm not sure if it's around the world, but I know it's definitely in the African-American community. I love playing that game. So that's like another one of my things.
Wow, that's incredible too. All right, if you were 18 again and you could change anything, what would you change?
If I could change anything, I would have had more boundaries with my management team, and I would have trusted my gut more to say no. That is something I would have changed. There's some projects that I turned down that my management team was very adamant about that I wish I hadn't have turned down. I do think that my career would have been in a different place. So that is the one thing that I regret, was not having boundaries to say, no, this is what I want. And my boundaries are pretty strong, but this particular person was very, I don't want to say a bully, but somewhat a bully.
Yeah.
And I had a hard time saying no or what I wanted to do in the relationship until I finally left.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Chrystee, thank you for coming on the podcast. I do appreciate it. I had an extremely fun time interviewing you, and it's incredible your career. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it.
No worries. Have a good night.
Thanks.